Hey there, this is Creation Images, where I share my in-the-field landscape photography, the skills I've learned over 20 years of hiking and backpacking in the wilderness, as well as the insights and the inspirations that I've received along the way. If you're new here, go ahead and click on the subscribe button and ring the bell below so that you can receive notification every time I come up with a new adventure. Anyway, I hope this video is helpful to you, and I really appreciate you being here, so thanks for watching. Welcome everyone. Today I'm up in Rocky Mountain National Park, and I'm going to be testing out two pieces of gear that I made at home that are going to be helping me on my upcoming snow caving trip. So if you are a do-it-yourself kind of backpacker, then maybe this video will be able to help you out as well. So I'll be showing you how to build two different pieces of equipment. The first one is this gear sled that's also called a Pulk, and the second one is this large two-handled cave carving saw. All the material for the gear sled I found at a local farm and ranch store. Altogether it cost me about $50 to buy that material, and it took me about an hour or so to put it together. The one exception was the carabiners. I have 4 carabiners on there that are good heavy-duty climbing carabiners. Those I did not buy. I already had those at my house. As for the cave carving saw, I actually ran into or found a bandsaw blade in the dumpster where I work, and the handles are just made out of wood and screws that I had at my house. So it actually didn't cost me anything other than time to build, and it took about 3 hours or so to put it together. So before we go back to my house and I show you how I actually built these pieces of equipment, I do want to give you a quick preview on some bonus tips I'm going to have at the end of the video. So I want you to be sure to come back for that. I'm going to be sharing some of the equipment that I always take with me specifically for snow caving to just make my life easier while I'm up there. And if you stick around to the end, I bet that'll be helpful for you as well.
The first thing I did to build my sled, or my Pulk, was to measure 5 feet on 2 different lengths of PVC pipe and go ahead and cut them. Then I took a knife and just deburred the outside and the inside edges to smooth them down. Next I took a length of rope and cut it to go inside the PVC pipe, and of course I melted the ends. This wasn't the greatest rope in the world. Kind of smoothing it down so that I would be able to push it through. Next I took the rope and just took a bite out of it and tied a simple knot. And then I tucked the end of the knot down inside the PVC. Next I took a carabiner that I already had and connected it to the end of the rope. So I had 4 carabiners, 2 on each end. And here are my 2 sturdy PVC leads to connect to the sled. And I connected them together with a piece of Velcro right in the very center. The strongest way to haul your sled or your Pulk is to have them crossed, so it'll look like this once you connect it to the sled. And this was a sled that I found at a local farm and ranch store. It's probably for hunting or fishing to haul gear, and it already had holes drilled in the sides. I drilled in some more holes and ran the rope through it. And then I bought the eye bolts and connected eye bolts to the front end. So there's 2 eye bolts, and connected the carabiners to both of the eye bolts there. Just like that. And so this is the final result of my Pulk, or my sled, and I'll be able to put a large backpack and several bags in there. Now the next project I did for my snow caving trip was to build a snow carving saw. And I started out by just taking a piece of 2x8 and measuring out what looks kind of like a gun or an L shape. Took it to the bandsaw and cut the gun or the L shape. This is going to be the handle to my saw. I had to take a couple of different stabs at that corner there on the bandsaw so I didn't bend the bandsaw blade. Next, I took all the edges and cut them at 45 degrees just along the outside of the handle so that I could smooth it out and make it more of a rounded shape that would fit nicely in my hand. Next, I clamped a sander to my table and went around and just sanded the whole thing to smooth out all the edges and make it nice and round. After sanding, I went back to the bandsaw and I cut the short end of the L in half so that there'd be a place for me to slide the blade of my cave carving saw. Next, I took the bandsaw blade and measured out how far I was going to cut the teeth off so that it'd fit inside my handle. Using a grinder, I cut the teeth off this section of the blade so that I'd have a narrower shank that would fit inside the handle. Now I overlaid the shank of the bandsaw blade onto the handle and marked where I was going to put in some notches on the blade so that when I ran screws through the handle, it would also go through part of the blade so that it wouldn't be able to slip one way or another. And again, using the grinder to take those notches out. Before I came to the drill press, I used the bandsaw blade as a template to show where to drill the holes so that my screws would go directly through the bandsaw blade. And using long screws, I'm going to put the whole thing together here, line up the notches with the holes that I put in the handle. Placing all 4 screws all the way through, and then using large washers on the outside to just make sure it doesn't compress into the wood too much and it'll stay tight. And then of course I did the exact same process on the other side of the blade, so I have 2 handles and about a 6-foot long snow carving blade. So my 2 pieces of gear to go snow caving with. And last but not least is a piece of safety gear, and this is just a split piece of plastic that is used to protect the edges of sharp objects like blades. And I can slide that over the kerf of the teeth and it holds on pretty tightly. And that way I won't cut myself or my gear on my blade. And it'll just curl up nicely and fit into the back of my sled.
So real quick, before we finish up this video, let me show you some of the gear that I always take with me to make my life easier while I'm up snow caving. One of the first things I take is a pair of knee pads. That way, when I'm spending hours crawling around in the snow, my knees, first of all, don't get super sore, but also they can stay warm since they're pressed up against the snow. Another thing I always bring to help keep me warm is an extra pair of mittens. So I have the pair that I have on right now, but I'll have another pair that's just specifically for digging the snow cave because they will get probably soaked and potentially not be able to be used for the rest of the trip. Another thing that's worth trying is a pair of actual rubberized gloves. These are 100% waterproof, and I might actually wear them inside my mittens, or alternate between the two of them just to see which ones work the best. So give rubberized mittens a try. Of course, inside the cave, once you have it done and you're spending some time inside there, you want to have candles, because candles just make the ambiance inside the cave awesome, and it makes the experience so much more fun. Of course, you got to have your shovel. Even though I have my snow carving blade, I still need to have a shovel with me. And another piece of equipment that I like to take, or another piece of gear, is just a piece of foam that I've cut up and taped together like this, that I actually will stuff into the seat of my my waterproof rain pants, and that way when I'm sitting down on the snow, I don't lose a lot of my body heat through my rear end, which having that having that pad underneath you really makes things a lot more comfortable. And then one more thing that I'm going to use this year is a old tent pole that I'm going to take with me to be able to prod into the snow and see how deep it is, because nothing is worse than spending an hour starting on your cave and then finding out that you don't actually have enough snow in that location, and then have to scout out a new location. So this is kind of like an avalanche probe, which I don't own, but an old ski pole is going to work just as well. So those are some things I'm going to take with me specifically for snow caving, and I think it's going to make my life a lot easier, and I hope those tips helped you as well. So anyway, thank you for being here, and I hope you got a lot out of this video. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel, and click on that, ring that bell at the bottom so you can get notifications anytime I come up with a new adventure or some new information for you. Thanks for being here. See you later.